You're listening to the Outdoors Group podcast. This podcast is a call to arms to get children and young people outside again. It's your one-stop shop for all things outdoor, child, young person and education related. Thanks for tuning in. I'm delighted to have gone on a field trip today to record this episode. I'm sat down in the most stunning surroundings at Tucketts Farm in South Devon, and I'm here today to talk to Kim and Rob Neath. Kim and Rob are part of the management team at this beautiful site, situated on the banks of the River Teign. They apply a regenerative farming approach in everything they do here at the farm, which includes vast apple orchards from which they make cider, a menagerie of animals with whom they take a compassionate farming approach, sustainable woodland management to be undertaken, and community events to organise. They are also incredibly talented chainsaw artists and have an exciting new artistic venture that they're going to tell us about as well. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Hello.
Or for having me. So let's start. Can you tell me a bit about your background and how you guys came to be here on the farm? Like, what brought you to this point?
That's very patriarchal if I've got to start. Well, how far do you want me to go back?
As far as you want.
Okay. So I met Kim.
Maybe not to your birth.
Yeah. I was pushed out into the world. So I met Kim in the north, and we decided we wanted to live a life that took us out of career and convention and working all the time to earn money. So we started to, I don't know, this is all going mostly
live
wrong.
out of his vehicle.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, and try and forage for food and live a bit more lightly on the earth. And then we decided we'd start our own business doing chainsaw carvings. Travelled around, that got quite successful, didn't it? Travelling all around UK.
Yeah, we were rubbish at first, obviously, but when we got good, it allowed us to move further afield and to live in places where we were carving and to get payment in as part accommodation. And during that time of getting better and living in a vehicle, we had a little boy, and by the time he was 4, whenever we turned up to a new place to do a commission, he'd ask us if we were staying there forever. Obviously we weren't, so we thought maybe we should stay somewhere forever. So the last job that we ever did was for Glamis Castle in Scotland, and they gave us a lovely house in the village to live in while we did a Macbeth sculpture trail. And then after that...
How long did it take?
About 3 months, weren't it? Yeah. Which is good for us. We probably told them it'd only take 2 months, but it took 3, because obviously diva artists. But yeah, so we moved from the top right edge to the bottom left edge of the country. Went to live in Cornwall first, and then through various internet type things, we got to living in a woodland in Dorset. And the land, after 5 years there, the landowners changed what they wanted to do with the woodland, which meant there were no place for us. So we, again, through the power of the internet, managed to pole up here.
Find Tucketts Farm.
Yeah.
So when you arrived here, what did you know about what's going on at the farm? What exactly happens here, and what do you guys do here?
Well, as I'm the gob, which you'll probably be able to tell as this goes on, I put a post out on Facebook detailing who we were, what our skills were, and what we wanted to do from a lifestyle point of view. And a lady who was friends with the farm owner said, "Oh, I know somebody who might like your help." So we came for a meeting, and she explained how she wanted things done, which were pretty much in perfect alignment with how we thought that things should be done. So from there, really, we kind of knew that this were the right thing to do. And then as we've moved here, most things have aligned with how we want to do things, and that's why we do things on the farm that we do.
Yeah.
It's evolved since we got here, though. As original roles were going to be quite different, weren't they, when we first came?
What were you originally going to do?
Originally, we were going to work on the veg garden and make a sensory garden, and also create sculpture for around the place. That was the main idea, wasn't it? And then, as soon as we arrived, I think everybody realised that other things were more priority.
Yeah.
We quickly became involved in looking after animals, didn't we? And then
Kim won't tell you, but she's got a degree in animal behaviour and welfare.
Oh, amazing.
So she's kind of can do all that, but she'll never tell you that.
And someone was needed for cider making, so you stepped up for that, didn't you?
Yeah, they tried to find somebody, but couldn't. So I said, if you're willing for the first year's harvest to be a complete disaster, then I'll be happy to do it, because I'm quite into food and drink. So that's what we did. turns out the first year is not a disaster, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Everybody's happy.
So so your roles are quite distinct, aren't they? You tend to do very different things. So what do you do?
Well, we very much work together,
Yeah.
but my main role is to be looking after all animals on the farm.
So what animals have you got?
So we've got Manx Lockton sheep, about 35 chickens, and we've got some Angora goats, a couple of golden Guernsey goats, and we've got 6 cattle at the moment.
Yeah.
Most of those are South Devons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that takes up
That keeps you busy.
all of my time. Yeah.
And some of my time.
And some of Rob's time, yeah. So,
You're an animal whisperer. Chief animal whisperer.
well, that's a nice title, yeah. I'll take that.
And Rob, what's your main things that you do as well as cider?
Everything else.
Everything else. So
Yeah.
what does that involve?
So, me and the farm owner had a joke the other day that I'm the hand, so the emperor's hand. And then she said, "Oh, like in Game of Thrones." So we're going to get a little gold hand that I can wear about the place. But yeah, so all kinds of admin surrounding countryside stewardship claims, well, just everything really.
Yeah.
The farm owner has her own business that obviously she needs to focus on as well as the farm. So I help her out with the things that she would be doing.
Well.
Yeah, and we've got some Airbnb accommodation, come and stay, that I'm helping out with. Just everything else that's on the farm, looking for new ways of diversification, all kinds of stuff really.
What do you do much with the woodland over there, or you just kind of let it tick along?
Well, luckily it needs to be managed for wildlife and biodiversity, which means I do bugger all with it because that's the best way.
Yeah.
Even though people tell you that it isn't, it is.
Yeah, it's very much left for nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you do any of that kind of. Is it the coppicing where they do one section every 7 years? And
Yeah, no.
just
Yeah,
gotta
there's
do that.
there's nothing really for coppicing, is there, in there?
No, and even if we're very much on the rewilding bandwagon, if you like, so coppicing doesn't really have a place in
No.
there. So yeah.
Have you got deer? What lives in the woods? What have you seen in there?
We've got every species of owl, apart from we've not seen a short-eared owl yet. We have seen a long-eared owl, which is cool because they're quite elusive. And we've not seen an eagle owl, which we're reading the other day, are in parts of the UK, which are quite
Are they? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we're holding out for that.
Yeah, small goals.
Little owl.
Yeah, we have little owls, which apparently we found out when we found a pellet on the goat gate, the goat to the gate field, and we found out that they weren't very prevalent in this area, or they haven't been recently. The local bird person told us, so that's nice that we've got.
Yeah, we got a
those
sighting
back.
as well of one, didn't we?
Yeah,
How little are little owls?
little.
Really little.
Yeah, I mean bigger than your thumb.
But quite small.
About what? 10.
Body's probably a hand size.
£10 coins high.
Yeah.
You've got to measure everything in pound coins, haven't you? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You got
Plus
deer
scale.
as well.
Yes, yeah, roe deer we've seen. What else? We've got
Yeah.
the heronry that's over in the woods as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
So the
cool.
herons come back to nest there, and the little egrets come and join them as well.
Oh, no
So
way.
that's
Cool.
pretty awesome to hear
Yeah.
and see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like being on in Jurassic Park. Very primeval. We've also, and when we first came, thought that she'd seen a pine marten, and we've not seen one, but we potentially have seen some scat.
Okay.
So we're going to set up some wildlife cameras. There's
Yeah,
otters on the
there've been
river.
otter sightings, aren't there,
Yeah,
as
we
well?
see seals on the river too. No dolphins yet.
No dolphins.
Probably won't come this far up unless they're in trouble.
Unless in trouble.
We are
Yeah.
gonna,
Or a
yeah.
really high tide.
Yeah.
We are going to have wildlife cameras set up soon, aren't we? So we
Yeah,
can,
get a lot of foxes because we
see.
don't really persecute foxes. So we see quite a few buzzards. Seen a red kite once.
Oh,
That's
the
awesome.
the other brilliant one is curlew.
Yeah, we've heard curlew in the winter.
That's really cool.
We've
Yeah.
got seal bunting in the hedgerows, which are rare.
Yeah. You got
And-
woodpecker as well, haven't you?
Green
Yeah, all of them.
woodpeckers,
Yeah.
and lesser and
But we
greater
also have
spotted.
quite a lot of bats. So in the cider house, which is a 17th century thatched building, we have greater horseshoe bats. And then over the other side of the river somewhere, secretive location, we have long-eared grey bats.
Okay.
I think there's only 8 breeding sites in the entire
Okay.
country, and they feed on our rewilded wetland, so that's quite exciting.
Wow. There's loads going on.
Yeah.
What's what if you had to choose one thing? What's your favourite part of your roles here at the farm? I'm assuming it's going to be different for both of you.
Not sure whether it will be.
No.
Spending time with animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For both of you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite animal?
Oh wow! They'd get
Is that like
jealous if
asking
I did
someone if
that.
they've got a favourite kid?
Well, this year we got 2 Golden Guernsey's kids.
Yeah.
So I am their human mum.
Aw.
So they are pretty close to my heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do love spending time with them all.
What about you, Rob? Who's your favourite?
Well, for me, I do like spending time with the animals. It can be quite grounding when you've had a bit of a crappy time mentally. But I really, really enjoy making the cider in I don't know the words to describe it, but I'm really into it, and I didn't think I would be. I thought I'd enjoy it.
You're turning into a cider geek.
Yes and no, just the whole process. I'm in love with the process. So being in the orchards and smelling the apples when they're getting ready, and then picking them all up by hand, and pressing them, and then just leaving things to happen. I find it all a bit magical.
Yeah.
It's like when I first ever grew anything, even though I know that food comes from plants and things, the magical aspect of something just bursting the soil, I still think that's a really, although it's not magical, it's based completely in science, I still think it's a magical thing.
Wondrous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Working with seasons as well is a wonderful thing, I find.
Yeah.
Even with animals, obviously, you've got different roles throughout the year, and I really enjoy that. Extra way of marking the seasons, and it works with cider as well, doesn't it?
I think the reason why I don't find the animals, why I probably go for the cider over the animals, is that when I'm interacting with the animals, I'm generally trying to, because I've not got a background in animals like Kim has, I'm trying to put what I've learnt into practice, so it kind of takes you out of just being with them, if that makes sense. I'm constantly trial and error, trying to make sure that...
Trying to remember all the things someone's given you as tips.
Yeah, and trying to... So we manage them in a way that's really compassionate, and when we have to move them or anything, we use methods advocated by a lady called Temple Grandin.
Okay.
You need to read about if you've not heard of her, 'cause she's cool. Which is all about using their flight zones and things like that in a compassionate manner. And the different animals need different degrees of that. So when you go in the cattle, you have to make, not physically obviously, but you have to make, I don't want to use the word aura, but I'm going to have to do, you have to make your aura bigger, because they're bigger animals. And
your presence,
and they don't respond in the same way as sheep, who are a lot more flighty, although they're both prey animals. So I'm constantly trying to figure all that out, so it makes me not as mindful as when I'm with them sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, but also what you've just done is given me a beautiful segue into the next question. Oh no, you haven't. I was going to ask about one other thing. Maybe I'll skip that one and come back to it, because it would be a great segue to say I've mentioned that you took a regenerative and compassionate approach to your work, and you just talked about compassionate kind of farming. What's your kind of rationale for it? Like, apart from the animals, what else does that mean, and like what underpins this kind of ethic of trying to be rewilding and regenerative and stuff?
Well, because it's right.
It's what needs to happen.
Yeah, like if you're going to eat something, you've got to treat it as well as you possibly can, and you've got to treat it as well as you possibly can from its point of view, rather than from what humans think or have been taught over centuries of mismanagement and just misdirection. Misinformation, yeah.
Going off what they knew at the time, basically, but we know better now.
Yeah.
Was it something you were exposed to by other people? Did you guys kind of just always have it in your heart, so that's the way you wanted to do things?
Kind of follows on from how we parent and how we think people should be treated. So it's just an extension of general morals.
And the owner of the farm, she's got a similar approach to regenerative kind ofness.
Yeah,
she's had to stop herself going to farm sales, because she used to rescue all the animals that looked in really poor condition.
To try and help them.
Yeah. So it all comes from the same place.
Yeah. So for animals, that's really obvious, like you've just spoken about, like, kind of that lady, I've forgotten her name already, Temple
Grandin.
Yeah. But in terms of other elements of the farm, like, how does that kind of apply by taking a regenerative approach, like with the orchards and...
Well, we don't use... the farm owner has Parkinson's, I don't think she'd mind me saying, and so one of the reasons she chose this farm is because it's not been sprayed or had pesticides used in a long time, and pesticides have been shown to exacerbate symptoms of Parkinson's.
Okay.
So we don't use anything like that.
Yeah.
And we try and we try and be as unmechanised as we possibly can. Obviously, we're not Luddites, but you know,
we picked all apples by hand.
Yeah. We've got a machine that the previous cider maker used to use to pick all the apples up, but it's not really how I want to do it. So we do it all.
Damage the trees?
Do it all by hand. No, but it's not. It's seen as a labour-saving device, but it wouldn't be, because we'd have to. When you pick the apples by hand, you can check them as you're doing it. Whereas when you're scooping everything up in the orchard, fox poo, everything, then you've got a bigger job at the end of it, and it's an engine that, you know, you could be in the orchard surrounded by
bird song.
Yeah, picking the apples, or you could be sat behind an engine.
Yeah, it's a much nicer, connective way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, and the farm owner and ourselves are very aware of, you know, the humanity's on the brink, if you like. So just with the 60 odd acres here, we're just trying to do our bit with that land. Probably futile, but it's all you can do, isn't it? You can only do what you can do within your sphere of influence. And
I don't know, there's a really great, I can't remember who did the quote about the ripples and everyone adding a ripple and that turning into a wave and stuff. So yeah,
that's it. If more and more people,
ripples, isn't it?
Yeah, more and more people are looking after their patch in a more conscientious way, then that adds up.
Yeah, futile. I am more of a nihilist.
It does make this patch quite wonderful, though, doesn't it? So
it's astonishing.
It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Would you say that you can link this kind of approach into community? Like, what part does your local community play in the farm, and how important do you think that is?
Well, they help me pick apples.
So very important.
Yeah, because we've got 12 acres of orchard. This year's harvest has not been great, because the apples are reverted to biennial fruiting, because we don't do any pruning. But yeah, so that's a major thing, really, and obviously I hope they're going to help me taste it along the way. We're hoping to set up a community veg garden.
Oh, amazing!
And we just try to investigate anything like that to see if it would fit in with the farm. It sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, because obviously this is somebody's home.
Yeah.
So there's a degree of privacy, and there's a degree of, in essence, this 63 acres is also garden as well as farm, so it's got other restraints, rightly so, that you wouldn't necessarily have on a farm. Yeah. So we have to work it within those parameters, but we try and be open to as many things as we can.
Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, but we do think about community a lot, don't we? I think it's something that's really important. It kind of goes hand in hand with everything we do as well, doesn't it? You know, thinking of the big picture and how everybody can work together and benefit from it, both physically and mentally. So we do try and consider it where we can, don't we?
Yeah.
What would the community veg garden look like?
Well,
bountiful, hopefully.
But I mean, like, would it be people coming once a week for like a regular session, or we haven't quite?
Well, we're hoping that we do. So we live on the farm, and we do hours for us rent, but also we have to keep his arts business going, a home educator's child, have time together. I don't know how that works, but yeah, so with time limited in what we can give, we don't work full time at the farm. So anything that comes in or that is community based needs to be a regulating, self-supporting system. So we're open a group that needs land to be able to do that, hopefully with some kind of that is benefiting people with mental health issues or something like that would come and be able to do that. And so things have to be, it'd be lovely if we both could work 50-60 hours and do that.
Be involved in everything.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be lovely, because then you wouldn't have the work-life balance that you've striven.
Strove. Is it strove? I don't know.
That you've been striving to find.
Striving. Yeah.
This is true. Yeah. But it don't really feel like. I mean, it can be physically exhausting sometimes, but I haven't got that feeling of
work. It doesn't feel like work. Not the same as being at a desk.
It's not the same when you're invested in something you're passionate about. It don't feel the same at all.
No.
It can be overwhelming though, can't it?
Yeah, there can be lots to do all at once.
Yeah, and it's all.
But that's farming and.
Yeah, and it's all intrinsically tied into the farm has to work for us to live here. The farm has to work for the farm owner to still be able to live here. So there's an
element of pressure in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I could jump back then to the question that I skipped, which was for the sake of balance, after we talked about all the lovely tasks, some of the less pleasurable tasks, just because it's nice to paint a realistic picture of people's lives, but maybe that's it, the pressure of trying to keep it going.
Yeah, the pressure. And there's also, in the details of that, there's difficult jobs when you're dealing with animals. Obviously, you're looking after these creatures and you want to keep them as well as possible, and there's difficult decisions sometimes. Through this summer we had a few difficult instances where some of the sheep got fly strike. For people who don't know what that is, it's basically where flies lay their eggs on a living animal. They hatch and start eating its flesh while it's alive.
Gosh.
So that is not pleasant to deal
really
with.
grim, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way to save them, basically, like?
Yeah, if you catch it early, you can deal with it and clean them up, and hopefully the skin hasn't got too damaged, and you can treat them okay and they're fine. But if you don't catch it early, it can be devastating. Yeah. And we did have one that didn't survive, and that was heartbreaking, wasn't it?
Yeah. But the treatment that they use is quite harsh to the environment, so it's a constant.
Yeah, it's a battle of trying to balance things, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of farms just treat with that as a matter of course, even when there's no prevalence of fly strike.
Just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. But that's not really what we want to do. We want to treat as beforehand. So we come up with if we find it once on a flock, then we will treat, but we have to be vigilant. We have welfare boards and numerous amounts of check sheets to make sure that all the animals are checked daily in a certain way that allows us to see what's happening. And you have to, sometimes the signs are really, really subtle, so it's not a case of just going around counting the animals. You have to spend time with them, observe them, think how the behaviour was the day before, why it might be different. It's quite involved, really. You're developing a relationship with them on a level other than just going around and making sure they're not dead.
Yeah. Yeah, so that weighs heavily on your heart sometimes, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's quite.
Not pressure, responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. Yeah.
You just mentioned juggling the work at the farm and home education and your own art stuff. So let's talk about your creative sides. So you were saying that you started by being this, I would call it a chainsaw collaborative, but I don't think that's the great word. But that's what you guys were doing for a living for a long time. But you've now decided to take your art in a different direction, haven't you? So can you tell us about your new project?
We've been on the verge of bankruptcy for 2 years, so balancing the farm work with our own work has not been a problem because we've not really had much of our own.
Do you think that's just because cost of living, people don't have as much money to buy art?
Well, we started doing a lot of large-scale public arts projects for building sites and working with schools, and then when COVID hit, building sites closed, schools closed, so that avenue of work just stopped instantly.
Just dried up,
and because we'd spent all those efforts developing that, we'd neglected private clients, and then so we had nothing, and then the cost of living has meant that any private clients we've built up since then have all stopped because of people want food rather than a wooden owl in the garden. And I've not Kim, that's all. Again, I'm the gob, so I do all the marketing and stuff like that, whereas Kim just gets the luxury of carving stuff. So creatively I've not been fulfilled for quite a long time, which we've had conversations about. So we thought, bugger it, let's just change what we do and make it more fulfilling for both of us, and make it more
profitable, hopefully.
Well, yeah, hopefully, yeah. But make it more in line.
It'd be nice to make a living without stress, but I mean that there will be stress involved because that's having your own business, isn't it? But mainly, as main thrust was we want to make a difference, don't we? We want to do something meaningful.
Yeah. So all is live. So how we live off grid in a year, which obviously we've not touched on yet, and on a regenerative farm, all fit with us beliefs. Whereas as art started like that, but then turned into these people want an owl carving, these people want this carving, with no meaning really behind what we were doing. So it seemed, I mean, this is going to sound really silly, but it's like working in a factory in some ways. It's not coming.
Well, for you, it definitely felt like that. For me, being able to do carvings, I love that process. But it'd be nice to be making something that is working towards a bigger meaning.
Yeah, and it's not just going to be sculpture. So
so what is what's the new product?
So this is difficult to say succinctly, but I'll try.
Doesn't have to be succinctly.
Okay. I'm doing a lot of talking.
That's what you're good at.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah. Kim is not oppressed. Just so we can.
I'll just interject with witty quips.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, we're changing what we do so that we're going to be involved. We're still going to do commissions, but we're going to be more project based, and the projects are going to strive to make a real difference in people's lives and highlight social and environmental injustice, which is obviously one of the reasons why we live, why we do what we do. And that's going to be involving lots of media, so still sculpture, but photography, poetry, written word, all kinds of stuff basically.
Woodcut prints.
Yeah. Mask making, automaton, puppetry, all the stuff that we did in a spare time, but that we never felt like we could use in as business, because we're chainsaw carvers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's basically encompassing everything we do.
Yeah.
What kind of projects are you hoping? Like, have you got ideas of what those kind of things might look like?
Yeah,
You'll have to speak now.
Wait, I know. We've both got projects that we're...
Yeah, you go first, go on.
...wanted to work towards. So one of the first things that I want to approach is climate change anxiety and how that feels and affects you as a parent, and your worries for your children's future. So it's not fully fleshed out yet, but my ideas will hopefully bring me into contact with other parents who feel the same, and through art bring us together, like a support network, but also creating an exhibition about the things that we hope to preserve and to still be around for our children and their children's future.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Do you think
very
it's going to be
emotive
parents
subject.
alone, or do you think they'll... Because one of our very first podcasts, the guy was chatting and saying that there's this really sad stat about that, like 80% of 10 to 16-year-olds worry about climate change. Like, I can't remember what the frequency was, and then out of that it was like 70% of them thought that the grown-ups in charge weren't going to fix it, and so they were talking about the climate change anxiety around kids as well. So will it kind of encompass that probably a little bit as well? Not sure yet.
That's a good idea. I might nick that. That might be something to follow on from. Yeah, because it's all part of the same thing, isn't it? And the more people you can bring together under the same umbrella for that, I think the more effectual you'll be. So yeah, good idea. Thanks.
No worries. I'll see if I can find the stat for you written down somewhere. What about you, Rob? What project? Obviously, you probably have more than one, but what's kind of at the forefront of your head? What are you feeling really drawn towards?
Well, at the moment, this is the main one. So I've always done green woodworking as a hobby, and carved spoons and things. And somebody I've been speaking to recently who also does podcasts said that he was speaking to a person who he saw carving a spoon, and they were telling him that it was a revolutionary act, that the fact that he wasn't a consumer and that he was creating his own implement to eat food with rather than going to a shop and buying it in a very small way was a railing against the system as it is at the moment. And I think that's quite true, as aggrandising as it sounds for just a spoon. I think he has got a point.
Yeah.
So when I carve my spoons, I don't really like to sell them. I like to give them away. They're of a standard that I could sell them quite lucratively, and I understand that it's very privileged, even though we live in a tent with no money. It's very privileged to be able to do that and not need to get money from them. And I think that's also a revolutionary act, giving away something you've spent hours on that other people charge money for.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I read a book once about knitting. This can sound really stupid, but it does make sense. And she was talking about what massive act of love it was to knit socks for someone and give them someone. She was like, because she was like, socks wear through. She was like a well-made jumper or scarf could last for like decades. She was like, but you're about to show me your woolly socks.
No.
Oh, I thought you were saying, I've got some on, which do have a hole in.
Oh, I do have one.
I got cramp.
Sorry. But yeah, then she said the same kind of thing. Like, it's like a massive, like, kind of, like, act of love to give away something like, and something that and socks are a pain to knit as well. So like, something that you've knitted or carved, or whatever, that's taken time and effort and thought and care, like, to give that away is like, it's quite a big deal, I think.
Yeah, and it fulfills me more than trying to get people to spend money on it. I don't like, even though that's what I've historically I've done with his other business, and that's what I've been doing going forward, the new artistic way, getting the money so we can do things. I don't really like doing it. Yeah, so
sorry, I've diverted from your project to
that's all right.
Knitting socks. Yeah,
so giving them away. So hopefully, I'm going to carve spoons and give them away to people who need it. But that's very small scale. Then I thought about it, and I thought, well, to continue on this revolutionary bent, how about that I give people the skills to do it for themselves? So I'm hoping to crowdfund through business a pot of money, basically. That means that I can roll out a series of spoon carving courses to people who are having mental health difficulties and things like that, where I can help them carve spoons, which would have a myriad amount of benefits for their mental health. It's a very mindful, well, if you're doing it while keeping all your fingers, you've got to be very mindful while you're doing it. Yeah. Which is obviously, as everybody knows, is really good for mental health. The connection to the material and the wood brings a connection to nature, which again, mental health. And then the connection generally, where green woodworking and spoon carving is concerned, and doing it in a group, there's also a connection to people, which again helps with mental health as well as other things. So that's my plan anyway.
So you're going to try and like link up with local like mental health charities or whatever to
get funding first.
Get funding
businesses listening.
Nudge, nudge.
And then roll that out, because I think that'd be good. Now, I mean, Kim thinks because I've got white male privilege, I naturally think on a larger scale than what Kim does. So immediately I'm thinking that we could roll it out nationwide. But there we go.
Maybe do like Devon first.
Obviously.
Move on.
Yeah. And hopefully include other spoon carvers, in the future, so that we can have groups that are funded. Because I know a lot of businesses have pots of money for that kind of thing. And as well, if a large business has a occupational health department, I don't know if that is as prevalent as it used to be because of cutbacks, then them booking a session for the people who are struggling would help as well. And there's various ways, hopefully, that it'll work. But if it doesn't work, I'll still be carving spoons and giving them away, and that'll be nice.
That'll be nice anyway.
Yeah.
If someone's listening and wants to find out about all the things you're doing, where can they find you online?
Well, unfortunately, at the moment, we're mid website. We have got his old website, which predominantly focuses on the chainsaw carving. So we've got no website at the minute, but we will have very shortly. But we're on Facebook, so Neath Art and Sculpture on Facebook, or Neath Sculpture on Instagram, and then from there we'll put links when his website's ready. It's being built by a man called Frank from Salford at the minute. So there we go. He's cool.
Have we got an address that we can give out yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, right,
we can update at some point when we can.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of times, Rob, about living in the yurt. So is this the most permanent structure that you guys have lived in, really, since you first moved into a van together?
The van's, I suppose, a bit more permanent, isn't it? Because that'll take longer to...
Well, it moves around, so...
Yeah. No, but it's made of metal and stuff, isn't it?
Most stationary...
yes, certainly the most stationary.
How are you finding life in the yurt?
Well, it's at 6 year, isn't it?
Yeah. 6 years in a yurt. It's a wonderful structure to live in. You can hear all the birds outside, and it's also home to lots of spiders and beetles, and currently we're being invaded by snails. But the closest to nature is wonderful, but it is a little bit scary in a storm.
Oh, of course, it was a big storm yesterday.
Yeah.
Weren't too bad.
So
we've had worse.
I worry about storms, and that is
you worry that the roof's going to come off.
Yeah, it's been through some big ones. When we were in the woodland
in Dorset,
there was a ride that led up to the yurt, and that just happened to be in a westerly direction.
Yeah.
So the main big winds we got full force. That was terrifying. But I don't really see any other downsides. I mean, it's like a living structure almost. You have to be here to look after it. The fire needs to be on for it to dry out, things like that.
Well, and even then,
to stop any rodents setting up home and things like that. But I do love it. But
well, it's like most things that we do. It's more connecting into it. You can't just like in a house. Generally, you outsource all the things that go wrong with it or that need attention. Generally, you would outsource. And you would just go home and live in it, switch things on, expect things to work, and you won't really pay much attention, or as much anyway. I know there's a lot of people where that's not the truth for them. But you have to, it's an organic living structure in a way. You have to, it's made of wood and canvas. You have to be aware of everything that's happening in it all the time, and you have to be constantly
fixing bits up. And
I was just about to say, does it require quite a lot of maintenance?
Yeah, I've had to clean all the canvas off before winter comes in, so it doesn't rot away in the Devon wet.
If anybody's thinking of living in Devon, don't.
Yeah, it's probably not suited to this climate too well.
Dorset is all right, but not Devon.
Is it that much wetter down here?
Oh my God, yeah.
Much wetter.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, being from north as well, everybody thinks it rains all the time, but we're from Yorkshire, so we're in a rain shadow. Very rarely rains. It's Lancashire where it rains all the time. So and then moving to Dorset, that was dry, and then we moved here and we were like, wow,
it's wet here.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
And we had to fix us star up, didn't we, this summer, so that was watertight for this autumn and winter, which is holding up nicely. But so everything gets fixed by us, doesn't it? And then there's the running day-to-day jobs.
Well, a friend helped us fix the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoemaker in Morton Hampstead. Luckily.
She was a bit of a saviour in that.
Was it the clear kind of plastic that was needed fixing?
Yeah, it degraded.
Yes. So, and then that needed re-sewing to the canvas, but with the industrial sewing machine. So,
wow, that's probably quite a big undertaking.
Yeah.
Is it Green Shoes she works for?
I think so.
Yeah, you can give her a little plug.
We think it's Green Shoes in Morton Hampstead, but the lady's called Sarah and she's ace.
They don't need their shoes made, goes Sarah.
Yeah. Nobody else there, just Sarah. We don't know if anybody else there is ace, but Sarah is.
Yeah, and it, it takes up a lot of time, doesn't it? This kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
To fetch your own firewood, prepare your own firewood, fetch your own water.
Yeah. I was just about to say, water you have to fill up from a nearby tap.
Yeah. Look,
in the olden,
closer one now.
In the olden days, we used to have to haul it from about 900 metres away via car to about 200 metres away, and then we had to push it through a swamp. So, but now we're here, we've got a tap about, 10 metres away from the door, so obviously luxury.
Yeah, that it seems like a big advancement, doesn't it, for us?
Yeah, it's not drinking water though.
Obviously there's no toilet in here. Where's your nearest toilet? Not too
far away. Well, that's a bit further.
Yeah. Again, so in the woodland we had a compost toilet, and the shower was a watering can in a tree, whereas on the farm we have access to a shower and a toilet, which seems like cheating. But when you stood under that marvellously flowing hot water, it doesn't.
The guilt just washes away.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
You still have to leave the comfort of your lovely warm yurt to go to the loo and have a shower. So I think that's still like more hardcore than most people.
And it's not very often.
It's more often for some.
Wouldn't change it though.
Oh no, I love this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Sometimes we treat ourselves around Yule to stay in a building, and we might go on holiday for a little bit. But I have this strange feeling of not fully enjoying it because we're not in the yurt connected to nature. So not being
too removed.
Yeah, not going outside and not realising that it's raining, or not being connected to the creatures that you can hear outside, not having any creatures inside with you to watch, like the spiders making the webs and things like that. It's not until you go away and live in a completely sanitised cottage or whatever where you think, wow, I have no idea what's happening outside, and I feel like part of it is missing. But I put up with it for a week or so, and then back to reality.
Come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's generally a bath. And baths solve everything.
Is it too obvious to ask what your favourite season is, living in the yurt?
Oh.
No, I think we both got different answers for that, haven't we?
Yeah, probably.
Mine is definitely springtime.
Okay.
Yeah, new life.
New life.
I love them all equally, and when you get to the end of one, I'm looking forward to the beginning of the next one. But if I had to choose, it would be autumn.
Okay.
Being like, having a little bit of a nihilist streak, the melancholy of all the deaths surrounding me. I just love.
That's why we're a balanced now.
That's why
new life is there.
I thought you were both just going to say summer, like warmer, drier, more light.
No. We're northern. Summer's horrendous.
Yeah, it's far too hot down here. But no, I love the rituals that come along with autumn and winter. Like when we first get to put wood burner back on again. Yeah. And the ritual of doing that every night, sorting it out in the morning, all that. Love that, yeah.
And I think it helps as well. So we do have artificial lighting, but we've got a big hole in the covered by plastic. We've got a big hole in the roof that lets in light. So I can't really see how we would ever suffer from SAD. And also because we're so attached to that light, it means that from December the 21st or 22nd, we know the light's coming back and it's noticeable and we can see it. Yeah. So by the time you get to that point, you're thinking, oh, and then it changes. Whereas I think when people live with artificial light, they don't really experience that, and it might be March before they realise that the nights are getting lighter or whatever. And whereas being a lot more connected to that is, well, I'm a giddy kipper from the middle of December onwards, which is obviously unusual.
Yeah, it's like we're over the hump.
That's it.
Yeah.
I actually think middle of November is the worst bit because it's just still getting darker. You're like, well, it's got more dark to come, and then
But we've just passed Samhain at that point, and that's a big celebration for us. We're not. Kim will not let me say we're pagans, so we're not pagans.
But we do celebrate
most of the pagan festivals. Yeah.
Just because they align with the seasons and nature, really.
Yeah. There's perfectly
it
good.
It resonates with us, doesn't it? Yeah.
Reasons for it.
But yeah, there's lots of celebrations when the dark comes to try and help you get through the dark.
So
that don't feel too bad.
We just had. I'm not going to pronounce it because I said it wrong the other day. Can you say it again?
Samhain.
What's next? Is solstice next? We got one before solstice.
Yeah, solstice is next.
Which is actually only like 6 weeks away.
Yeah,
wow.
Probably.
Wow.
I think there's 6 weeks between them all. I read a book somewhere and she was saying like between all the pagan festivals, there's 6 weeks, so you only have like so you can mark the year in 6 week chunks. It also seems less scary when you think about the dark. It's only 6 weeks till the darkest bit, and then 6 weeks till the one in February. Imbolc. Yeah.
But we're not pagan.
We're not.
We're not.
Before I ask you about my last 3 questions, was there anything else you want to tell us today, either about the farm or your art project?
Other than beg you to give us money. Well, the farm it's a bit of a gem really, and it's not very well known. So it would be nice if you could follow Tucketts Farm on Facebook or Instagram. See all the cool things we're doing.
And come and stay in the Airbnb.
Yeah. Be invested in that journey. We do occasionally, although we're hoping to have a little bit more, have the animals available for sale to eat as meat, which obviously they've had an astonishingly good life. We don't do a lot of practices that normal farm would do, and they're kept in magnificent conditions. So it's possibly one of the most ethical sources of meat you could eat. Yeah, and we'll have some cider ready soon. So if you want some of that.
Yeah, and then future projects wise, we're setting up our wool co-op, aren't we?
Yeah.
So the fibre from the Angora goats and the wonderful wool from the Manx-Lockton sheep will go to local weavers and spinners and knitters and wool workers.
Oh, that's so
to
cool.
make handmade local wonderful woolen things. So but the farm is a gem. Yeah, it's got a wonderful mix of obviously things you would expect to find on a farm, but also the history of the thatched buildings, the cider making, and also the wildlife with the wild wetland area and woodland. So
I think when you say the word farm, people listening to this they'll have a picture in their head, and it's not what the farm looks like. No, the farm's like picture, postcard, chocolate box, perfect. Yeah, there's one tractor, nothing else. There's not
very, very quiet, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no noise every hour. It's not probably what people are thinking. So it is quite special.
Yeah.
So they need to go and find you on Instagram so they can see the beautiful photos. Of
Yeah. Which I take, by the way.
Which you take. A snapshot of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time today. Finally, I've been asking all of my podcast guests, that was a really hard phrase to say today, podcast guests, these questions. How do you relax?
What's that?
How do you relax?
Well,
it'll be active relaxation.
Active, yes. So I really enjoy wild swimming. So that's one of my ways. And also having a run around the farm or a walk around the farm. That's my main relaxation, I would say. What about you, Rob?
Well, this is going to be another long answer from the gobby one. I'm experiencing quite a few mental health issues at the moment, and I've been talking. I've got a therapist, which is very odd for a northerner, and we've been talking about how that I don't really do anything for myself, so I don't really have things that I do to relax. And when I do, if I do something, I feel a tremendous amount of guilt that I'm doing it, because it takes me away from the business, the farm, Kim and our son. So I have this guilty feeling, so it stops me from doing it. However, this past week, in my previous life, I was an avid reader and all kinds of things, so I've started the small step of starting to read and not feel guilty about it.
Awesome.
And these last couple of days I've read for a couple of hours and then not immediately felt, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, I should have been doing this other thing. So that's a bit of a step forward. So the answer is nothing, but I'm working on it.
You're working on it. Which again segues quite nicely to what you're reading or listening to right now, so you can tell us what book you started.
I don't know the title. It's some kind of fantasy nonsense. I've got a word for it, but I'm not allowed to swear on this, so I can't tell you. For the overarching thing, it's the opposite.
Genre.
Yeah, it's the opposite of chicklet.
Okay.
It's a word that rhymes with that, so you can probably figure that out. So I don't know what it's called, but it's some generic fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just finding mine now.
I was going to say, you're not having a look for your book. I was laughing at The Secret Life of Cows.
Yeah, friend lent me that, The Secret Life of Cows by Rosamund Young. That's
nice.
A very endearing and wonderful introduction, which really resonates with how
would
we
you
do
call
things.
that? Would you call that relaxing though? Because that is intrinsically linked to farming.
Oh, this is not about relaxing.
This is
what
you read.
What we're reading. Oh, in
and
that
then
case
there's
then.
Temple Grandin's Guide to Working with Farm Animals.
Nice.
And then purely fictional, The Honesty of Tigers.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good selection.
Yeah, very different. Well, no, not very different.
And what are we watching? Was that then?
Well, just what you're reading or listening to.
All right, okay.
You can tell me what you're watching.
We do watch things, even though we live off grid in a
I
year.
never ask people that. I don't know why. I think it's because I don't watch stuff very often. But then, of course, other people might want recommendations. So if you've got a good recommendation for something you're watching, do tell us.
Well, there's loads of
What
stuff.
are we watching?
What are we watching? There's a comedy on iPlayer called No Activity, which is an Australian comedy, which is quite interesting, quite funny.
We've just watched the Wes Anderson short stories, Roald Dahl short stories, which
on
are
Netflix.
Very good, bizarre, but compelling.
Yeah.
One thing that we're listening to, it's not podcast or anything like that, but it's just come out, hasn't it? That song that we're listening to by Beluga Lagoon.
Oh yeah, because nobody knows about them. So there's a Scottish band called Beluga Lagoon.
What a great name.
Yeah, they make wildlife documentaries for BBC Scotland and other things, but also they do this. And I find, well, we both find, that their music is inspirational, and when you're listening to it, it's like you're listening to nature, even though potentially there's not sounds of nature in it. It feels connecting in some way, just from the subject matter that they sing about and things like that.
Yeah.
Which makes it sound, but it's just really good to listen to.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. But their documentaries that they make are all about them walking off into the wilderness and their little adventures of like wild camping and things like that.
Yeah, you get them on YouTube.
So yeah.
Nice. And finally, why is being outdoors important to you?
Well,
because it's better than being indoors.
That is a very big question.
I'm leaving my answer there. You
could
can.
not live without it.
Yeah.
It's just intrinsically part of who we are, isn't it? it just feels like that is what life's about.
Yeah. I'm not going to leave my answer there. I'm going to
go on,
obviously, being gob. Which is another word for mouth, just in case anybody doesn't know if he's a gob or what is that. I once heard Ray Mears say on one of his programmes on television that generally most people would see 80 springs, 80 summers, 80 autumns and 80 winters, roughly. And when you think about that, that is a magnificently finite amount. So I'd like to try and make the most of every one of those that I see.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, Rob.
Yeah.
Nice ending. I'm glad you expanded. Thanks so much for your time today, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
And I'll put the links to Tucketts Farm and your Neath art and sculpture in the show notes for people to find.
Cool.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. A huge thank you to Rob and Kim for joining us to tell us about all the work they do at Tucketts Farm and the exciting new art project that they are about to embark on. We hope that you enjoyed that episode, and if you did, as always, please tell your friends about it, share the podcast, subscribe, rate it, and do all the things that mean that more people can find us. We'll be back in a fortnight with our last episode of the year, so we hope you'll join us for that. And until then, thanks for listening.